My first time with Damien began the night I shamelessly broke into his apartment and slipped under his sheets. Damien slept around constantly. He hated it when neighbors banged on his door complaining about the bed shaking, so he lived on the ground floor, which made it awfully convenient for me to jimmy the window and let myself in. I stripped down and lay naked in his bed. The moment I heard the door open, I pulled the covers over myself. When he stepped into the bedroom, I caught the hitch in his footsteps. The brief falter of his breath. He yanked back the blanket and saw me bare, without a single stitch. I watched him, waiting for him to pounce. I could see he was aroused. There was no hiding it.
Elena, how the hell did you get in here? Have you no shame? I heard you sell yourself to anyone who pays well. Get the hell out of my bed. Right now. I don't want your filth.
I rubbed against his leg, my voice honeyed. I poured every ounce of effort into looking seductive. My eyes, my posture, everything. Call me whatever you want. Say, I'm selling myself fine, but I won't charge you a cent. Free delivery. Are you going to turn down meat that lands right on your plate? You can do anything you want with me. He shoved me down and pinned me beneath him. His body's reaction was unmistakable, but his eyes held not a flicker of desire. He slapped me hard across the face, snapping my head to the side.
Anything I want, even this?
My cheek burned with pain, but I kept my sugary smile. Of course. Tonight, I'm in your bed, so I'm yours. Do whatever you like.
You're really that cheap, just like everyone says.
Yes, I felt utterly, disgustingly cheap, but I still gave him everything I had, using every trick I knew, until the world outside faded away. Maybe because I was so willing, Damien's enthusiasm matched mine. Afterward, he lay back with a cigarette in one hand and the other arm draped around me.
So you're selling it to me now? How much?
I don't want your money.
Stop selling yourself out there. I'll keep you. How does that sound?
What if I told you I'm nothing like the rumors say? Would you believe me?
Don't think I can't tell. You weren't a virgin tonight. If you're not selling yourself, then who was your first?
What if I said I don't know? Would you believe that? That was my first time with Damien, but it wasn't my first time ever. Just as I don't know what I ever did wrong or how my life spiraled to this point, mired in filth, with no way to pull myself free. Every time we finished, he simply tossed a thick stack of cash onto my body. I saw it plainly. He loved degrading people, loved watching them grovel without a shred of dignity. He didn't value money at all. He just enjoyed using it to buy that kind of entertainment. But every time I left his apartment, I stripped off every bill, took nothing, dressed in silence, and walked out without a word.
Just last night, a buddy of mine saw you at the campus dining hall, picking up the $2 poverty meal with that free soup. That stuff isn't fit for human consumption. Even pigs would turn their noses up at it. You're so damn broke you can barely eat. So why put on this holier-than-thou act with me? You're telling me none of this cash tempts you? Not a single dollar? I don't believe it. You're out there whoring, yet you're trying to play the saint?
I'm not here for your money, so of course I won't take a cent. That was the truth. Money was never the reason I slept with him. His looks were decent, sure, but his soul had rotted long ago. I wasn't impressed.
Don't give me some crap about loving me to death. I don't buy that act. If that's what you were about to say, you can get out.
I wasn't going to say that. Since you asked, Mr. Ashford, I'll give you the truth. My dear sister is absolutely obsessed with you, and I simply love taking things away from her.
Your sister, who?
Serena.
That pathetic little bootlicker?
To Damien, Serena was just a groveling fool. But in my world, she was the one who had destroyed my entire life. Those were exactly the words I had been waiting to hear. Serena tormented me for 4 solid years. All through high school, I lived in her shadow. And university didn't free me from her either. Thanks to Serena, vicious rumors about me being easy spread like wildfire. She and her pack of cronies cornered me in the dance studio while Damien stood off to the side watching the show. But when I lifted my head, he saw my face straight on. I've known since I was a child that I'm not bad looking. It was precisely because I was pretty that I attracted such filthy malice.
Enough. Break it up. I'm bored. Leave her alone, give her a way out. You're really pretty. How much do you charge per session?
Someone pointed at me and said that being able to serve Damien was a blessing, that I ought to pay him instead, and that I should thank him right now. Damien lived life on the wild side. He swapped girlfriends faster than he changed clothes. Relying on the fact that his father was a university trustee, he did whatever he pleased, wild parties, brawls, street racing, you name it. His family was massively wealthy and powerfully connected. I'd heard about more than a few ugly incidents they'd swept under the rug. He'd once shoved a guy off a 6th-floor balcony, leaving him paralyzed from the neck down. He'd also cornered a girl walking alone at night and ruined her. Every mess was cleaned up with money. When he said those words to me, I realized he hadn't been moved by compassion. He was simply attracted to my face. Utter scum. He didn't want to save me. He just wanted me on a whim, and he still had to humiliate me. That fleeting, shallow attraction became the root of everything tragic that followed. I hate him. But right now, at this very moment, I still poured every ounce of energy into pleasing him. He was the reason I had plunged into this abyss, and I would use him to climb back out. To be honest, my life at this school was beyond miserable. My family had money, but I didn't receive a single penny for living expenses. My tuition came from student loans, and I covered my meals through work study and part-time jobs. Every weekday at noon, I worked an hour and a half at the campus pasta station, earning $500 a month plus 1 free lunch. On weekends, I tutored, handed out flyers, scraping together whatever meager pocket money I could. Ever since Damien started keeping me, my weekend side jobs had pretty much fallen apart. All that time went to him now, and my income took a serious hit. Aside from work, every spare moment went to studying. I slept only 5.5 hours a night. It was brutal, but I embraced it willingly because I was aiming for a government-funded exchange program to South Korea. Only the top students could win that spot. I wanted out of this place, so I had to seize that opportunity. While working at the pasta station, I wore a mask and a cap, bundled up so tightly that no one who tormented me could recognize me. Damien had said he'd protect me, and I figured he must have had a word with Serena. She really had gone quiet for quite a while. She and her lackeys hadn't bothered me in ages. One sweltering afternoon, the dining hall wasn't very crowded. The kitchen was a steam bath, and I was so unbearably hot that I slipped my mask down for just a few minutes. That was all it took for Serena's little minion, Chloe Maddox, to spot me. Chloe marched straight to the counter to stir up trouble, jabbing her finger at me and screeching that I was a bad girl. Through the glass, I watched people pointing and whispering about me, the murmurs flooding my ears, male voices, female voices, high, low, open sneers, hushed gossip, they all layered and tangled together, a suffocating tide that drowned me. I'd long since gotten used to it. I didn't care anymore. Suddenly, a cola bottle came flying out of nowhere and smashed straight into Chloe's head, sending her sprawling to the floor with a yelp. Everyone whipped around to look. Damien was striding toward us. I knew he never ate dining hall food, so I'd figured I could safely work here without him ever showing up. I had no idea why he'd come today. Chloe had probably counted on his absence too, which was why she felt bold enough to pick on me, planning to report back to Serena and take credit for it. Chloe had just started to get up when Damien stomped his foot down on her head, not caring at all that she was a woman. He ground the sole of his shoe over her hand, listening to her scream and wail in agony. Then he swept a menacing glare around the room, threatening her and, by extension, every person present.
Swallow every last word you just said. If I ever hear anyone talking about her again, I'll make sure they regret it. If you don't care about keeping your limbs or your diploma, go ahead and test me. And you go back and tell Serena this. Elena is under my protection. Tell Serena not to think she can get away with sneaky little stunts where I can't see any more trouble for Elena, and she's making an enemy out of me. Got it?
Damien lifted his foot. Chloe nodded frantically, scrambled up, and fled. He walked to the counter and rapped on the glass. I'm not off yet. He rolled his eyes, so I fired up the burner, boiled a batch of spaghetti, and quickly put together a takeout box for him. He took the container, leaned close to the glass. The moment he was gone, my manager patted my shoulder. His expression was complicated. Well, that figured. After a scene like that, who would still dare employ me? Now my situation was even more desperate. I peeled off my uniform and stepped out. People in the dining hall still stole glances at me, but no one dared say a word. Walking out the main entrance, I found Damien hadn't left. He was crouched on the steps, smoking, still holding that takeout box of pasta. I stretched out my hand. He glanced up at me. He crushed his cigarette under his heel, stood up, and started toward the campus gate.
I didn't believe it until I came and saw it with my own eyes. It really is you. I throw all that cash at you and you won't take it, yet you're perfectly happy being cheap labor here. Seriously. What are you after?
I forced a smile. He looked genuinely surprised. I didn't want to cry. I thought I'd toughened up enough, but at that moment, I couldn't stop the tears from falling.
What the hell are you crying for? How much did that pasta job pay you? 300? 500? I'll give you 10 times, 100 times that. Stay with me. And how much money couldn't you have? You haven't had lunch yet either, right? Eat this.
I dug in without an ounce of grace or dignity. It was the richest meal I'd had since starting university.
Elena, where do you get off with that ridiculous pride of yours? Move in with me. I said I'm keeping you.
On the days he didn't come home, I could pour even more time into my studies.
You actually study? Are you some kind of good student? How does a good student end up like this?
He took me to a pool hall where a bunch of his shady friends were hanging out. I didn't know how to play pool, so I just stood by and watched. There was a game going on at the next table too. One of the players was a big, brawny guy who clearly had no skills. He kept hitting too hard and messing up his shots until, furious, he gave an angry strike. The cue ball flew off the table and smacked into Damien. Damien picked up the ball, held it in his fist, tilted his head to spit out his cigarette, and eyed the guy sideways.
You looking for trouble?
The guy didn't seem to be from our school. He clearly had no idea about Damien's violent reputation and squared right up.
Don't look at me like that. Who the hell do you think you are?
I have to say, most of the time, so-called masculine bravado just comes off childish, at least to me. They went back and forth a few times, and before anyone could tell who threw the first punch, the brawl exploded. I backed away coldly. No one was going to bother a woman in the crossfire. The pool hall owner frantically called the police while the two of them fought like they meant to kill each other. Damien's weapon of choice was that cue ball heavy as a rock. He never worried about fatal consequences in a fight and always aimed straight for the head. But the other guy pulled out a switchblade, a small blade, but fast, too fast. They were locked in so tight, neither saw it coming. But I, standing aside as a spectator, caught it clearly. In that split second, my only thought was, this is my chance. I lunged forward and shoved Damien out of the way. The switchblade sank into my body, burying itself to the hilt. Pain, blinding pain, blood, hot and wet, pouring out no matter how hard I pressed my hands against the wound. My vision started blurring along with the flow of blood, as if my very soul were draining out with it. Damien scooped me up in his arms and bolted out of the pool hall, rushing me to the hospital. I had gambled way too hard that time. The blade punctured my lung and caused a tension pneumothorax. A few minutes later, and I would have been dead. They saved my life, but I had to be hospitalized. Damien bought a mountain of food from that upscale bistro, but I had no appetite. I couldn't eat a single bite. He stayed at my bedside the whole time. At one point, craving a smoke, he stuck a cigarette between his lips but didn't dare light it, pacing restlessly around the room. You don't have to stay here. I'm okay now. He tossed the cigarette away and sat back down.
I'll stay until you fall asleep.
I said nothing and let him do as he pleased. After a long silence, he suddenly spoke.
Elena. Why?
Why what?
Don't play dumb. Why did you take that blade from me? Couldn't you see that big idiot had lost his mind and was aiming to kill?
Because I did see. That's why I stepped in.
Stop smiling if you don't mean it. I know you don't like smiling that much. Have you actually fallen in love with me?
How could I? I remembered what he'd said before. Don't talk about loving him. He didn't buy it. And if I did, I could get lost. But he'd like the honest answer about wanting to steal from Serena, so I chose to give the truth again. If you died, no one would be left to protect me, so I couldn't let you die.
Fine. Whatever you say.
Once again, he instinctively reached for a cigarette, only to remember I was still recovering. He pulled his hand back awkwardly, clicking his tongue in frustration. I gestured toward the window. Open it and smoke over there? That spot won't set off the fire alarm. And the smoke won't reach me. He looked like a pardoned prisoner as he hurried to the window. I'd never seen him so desperate.
I know plenty of people who do drugs, but I've never touched the stuff. You know why?
I shook my head.
Quitting cigarettes alone feels worse than dying. Can you imagine quitting something like that? I know that stuff is bad, so it's easier to just never start.
He kept his eyes on me as he smoked, watching me far longer than he ever had before.
I started smoking when I was 13, and I haven't stopped since. I can't quit. Look at the wreck I am now that tells you everything. Nobody ever bothered to rein me in. As long as I didn't actually drop dead, I could stir up the biggest mess possible and still not get a shred of their attention.
I stayed quiet. He didn't seem to need me to speak, he just wanted to talk.
Nobody managed me. Nobody loved me. Home is your last refuge? My refuge is empty, abandoned. Might as well tear it down.
He laughed as he spoke, wild and reckless, and incredibly bleak.
I don't have real friends either. They all flock to me for my money, like a bunch of lapdogs. They're either scared of me or kissing up to me. Let me tell you something, back in high school, I liked this girl. When I think about it now, what a damn ripoff. Eventually, I drained everything and bought a 6-figure jewelry set to give to her because she said she loved me. I wanted to test her, so I told her my family went bankrupt, deep in debt, completely broke. She ghosted me for a week, then dumped me. I gave that jewelry set right in front of her to her desk mate. Even now, it still cracks me up. So what the hell is money, anyway?
Somewhere along the way, I had earned this much of his trust. He sounded so tragic. But what did any of that have to do with me? I could never, ever fall in love with him.
Your turn. If you and Serena Harding are blood sisters, how come you got such a raw deal?
We're not blood sisters. Same father, different mothers, half related. She's my stepmother's daughter. A look of understanding dawned on his face, so I started telling my story too. But not because of some fair trade pact where I had to share just because he did. I was doing it to earn his pity. Since he already believed I loved him and clearly wasn't made of stone, he'd likely pity me even more. Before, I would never have dished out my past like a beggar wagging a tin cup, trading humiliation for sympathy. My pride would never have allowed it. But now, I didn't care about anything anymore. I had nothing left to lose. I was already using my own body, so what were a few stale, festering wounds? I needed his sympathy and his protective instinct. Who doesn't have a few shameful skeletons these days? Mine just happened to be more agonizing. I had been steeped in pain for so many years that I'd long since gone numb. My story takes a while to tell. My family was in business with a sprawling enterprise, but my father hadn't built it himself. Back then, he was a poor young man with good looks and a degree. He charmed my mother into eloping. She was an only child and married beneath her. In my memories, they were deeply in love. He always doted on her, keeping her sheltered and naive. Until the summer after my middle school graduation, when my grandfather passed away. At that point, my mother had no family left on her side. She inherited everything, the fortune, the business. 2 weeks into my first year of high school, my mother was killed in a drunk driving collision. She was found overwhelmingly at fault. No one could pay with their life for hers. Barely 3 weeks after her funeral, my father couldn't wait to bring Serena and her mother, Lydia Snow, through the front door. I was still wearing my mourning white, and worse, Serena was actually my father's biological daughter. She was only 2 months younger than me. The shock nearly destroyed me. It meant every ounce of affection my father had ever shown my mother was a lie. He'd never been loyal to her, never to our family. I couldn't stop myself from wondering about all those countless nights he'd claimed to be working late or entertaining clients. Where had he really been? Had Serena and her mother been eyeing our positions all along, eagerly awaiting the day they'd march in and claim everything? The more I thought about it, the more my mother's death began to look suspicious. But I had no proof. Then, by chance, I woke up in the middle of the night to get some water and overheard Lydia talking with my father. That's how I learned the truth. My mother's death really had been murder. He had forced alcohol down her throat, carried her into the car, and started the engine. Lydia was the one who hired the hit. The other driver was on her payroll. Together, they murdered my mother. Serena and I ended up at the same high school. Ours was a top-tier institution, and there were only two types of students, those with excellent grades and those whose families paid a sky-high enrollment fee. I'd heard of Serena before she ever moved, in a notoriously vicious delinquent who ranked dead last academically. Just the thought of my father paying that astronomical fee to squeeze her into a school I had worked so hard to earn my place in made me sick. The first moment I laid eyes on Serena, I knew she meant harm. What followed 3 years of high school was a waking nightmare. Sipping my foot into a shoe only to step on a dead mouse. Everyone in the house knew Serena had done it, but I had no proof.
It must have eaten rat poison and crawled in on its own.
She disgusted me more than the dead mouse ever could. Finding live cockroaches squirming at the bottom of my rice bowl. Opening my pencil case to see maggots crawling inside. Staples secretly pressed into the lining of my sweater, slicing red scratches across my skin. Serena would snatch my nice clothes, though on her they only ever looked like a cheap imitation. She stole my money. Lydia used discipline as an excuse to load chores onto me. I did all the housework the entire time I was home. Of course, I fought back, and when I did, she whispered poison into my father's ear, claiming I gave her attitude. He believed her, scolded me in front of her, and cut off my allowance. When I told him everything Lydia and Serena had done, his reaction was to drag me into a face-to-face confrontation with them. Serena would look all pitiful and deny it, and that was the end of it. I begged him, in tears, to give me a little money so I could move out. His response? My father, no. I can barely call him that. Was Harrison stupid? No. He was razor sharp. He simply didn't love my mother, and by extension, he resented me. It was easier to believe Serena, who was so skilled at playing the victim and telling pretty lies. How does that saying go? When there's a stepmother, there's a stepfather. What was I? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And at school? At school, where my father couldn't see, Serena was even more brazen. Books torn apart, homework thrown in the trash, those were the good days. Red ink pooled on my chair. I was locked in bathroom stalls and drenched with water. Slapped. Framed for cheating on exams. The one thing that kept me going was the college entrance exam. Then the exam scores came out. Mine were only good enough for a second-tier school.
Elena, I'm on the same flight as you tomorrow. Looks like we'll be at the same school. Oh, by the way, I bet you're still wondering why your score was so low. Blame yourself for being too stupid to safeguard your own stationery. I swapped your pencil lead for regular graphite. All your multiple choice answers? 0. Surprise.
If I were you, I'd have killed her on the spot. What were you thinking right then?
I said, pausing to remember. Even if I could only attend this school, I still had a chance. I could go to graduate school. She couldn't just buy her way into that. I could still shake her off. No matter how much she tortured me, I couldn't give up on my own life. His expression turned uncharacteristically serious.
Then what's this now? You call this not giving up on your life?
I'm supposedly selling myself. That's the rumor Serena Harding started. The people spreading it don't care whether it's true or false. He pinched my chin.
If it's just a rumor, then who was your first time really with?
That was the nightmare that still jolts me awake in the dead of night. A man I didn't know clamped a hand over my mouth and dragged me into an alley. No matter how I screamed, cried, and begged, he wouldn't let me go. In the pitch-black darkness, I never even saw his face. As he fled, I heard Serena Harding's voice.
That face of yours is a born seductress. Damien Ashford gives you one pitying glance and already he wants to sleep with you as if you deserve it. He's the one I want. Let's see what you've got left to tempt him with now.
Ha ha ha. At first, I thought Damien Ashford had at least spared me from a beating. I never imagined it would lead to this. I hate him. I hate Serena Harding, too. But when I told Damien Ashford what happened, I only said that Serena Harding had arranged for someone to assault me. I didn't tell him the reason why.
After it happened, didn't you go to the police?
I did. I had no energy left to fake a smile. My face was cold, blank. The security cameras didn't catch his face or which way he went. Serena Harding had an alibi. I couldn't remember what he looked like. I reported it, but they couldn't catch him. What was I supposed to do? What else could I do? Damien Ashford stared at me for a long moment, then suddenly patted my head, a gesture far more intimate than anything he'd ever done before.
Elena Harding, you saved my life. I won't leave that debt unpaid. Wait and see.
After that, Damien Ashford didn't visit me for a long time, though he still sent the housekeeper with 3 meals a day. 3 days before I was discharged, the rumors hit. Serena Harding had been gang assaulted by a group of thugs. No evidence was left behind. There was no way to catch them. It didn't seem like she'd reported it, and no one knew how the story got out. As sudden as it was, nobody was really surprised. She was always running with that kind of crowd, so it wasn't shocking that it had finally blown up in her face. She didn't come forward to deny it because she couldn't. She was in the hospital, the same hospital as me. By then, I had mostly recovered. I went to her room to see her. The moment she spotted me, she flew into a frenzy, screaming curses.
What are you doing here? You came to gloat. Get out. Get out.
I stood in the doorway, unmoving. She tried to lunge at me, but the slightest movement sent her crumpling back onto the bed, tears of pain streaming down her face. I stepped out and sat on the bench in the hallway, listening to the nurses murmuring about her. I didn't pity her, not one bit. I was too overjoyed, so overjoyed I wanted to scream out loud. She had arranged for me to be violated, and now the tables had turned. Karma had come for her. Whoever had done it, she had earned it. An eye for an eye. Unless she planned to never marry or date for the rest of her life, this was something she could never explain away. When I got back to my room, Damien Ashford was standing by the window smoking. He asked where I'd gone, and I said I just needed some air.
You heard about Serena?
I nodded.
Are you happy?
I nodded. He smiled. I didn't ask if he was the one behind it. The answer was obvious. I didn't need to ask outright. He probably wouldn't like that. Or maybe the answer never really mattered. This was exactly why I had gotten close to him in the first place. This was his purpose, wasn't it? 3 days later, I was discharged. Damien came to take me back to his apartment, but I refused. I said I'd been away from home for too long and needed to go back for a visit. He lit a cigarette and looked at me like I'd lost my mind. I arched an eyebrow. He blinked, then his face broke into a grin. I returned home for the first time in what felt like forever. Harrison wasn't there. He was probably out on business, or with yet another mistress. When Lydia saw me, she looked both surprised and annoyed. I smiled. Lydia froze. As I'd suspected, she had no idea. She frantically pressed me for what had happened, and I put on a troubled face. I pulled out my phone and pulled up a trending post on the school's online forum. Lydia snatched the phone. She barely read a few lines before she panicked, threw my phone aside, and rushed to her room to call Serena. That evening, Harrison came home reeking of alcohol. The moment he walked in, he started screaming at Lydia. Lydia was never one to take abuse lying down. Their shouting match quickly turned physical. In my room, I listened to the chaos downstairs as a message from Damien came through. I typed back just 2 words. Thank you. Nothing more. Despite all the fighting, Lydia still went to bring Serena home. The injuries were severe, and she was beside herself with worry. She had to look after Serena herself to feel at ease. By the time Serena got home, she could walk, though any strenuous movement was still out of the question. She was pale and emaciated. The moment she saw me, without a single word, she grabbed a vase from the table and smashed it over my head. I felt the blood trickle down, soaking into my hair and skin, trailing past my eyes and over my cheek. Lydia had seen her bully me 1,000 times and didn't care at all. She simply went upstairs to unpack Serena's luggage. Now, alone, Serena dropped all restraint. She grabbed me by the collar, but she was so gaunt, she just looked frail, not fierce.
Elena, don't think I don't know. You did this. It was you, wasn't it? You hated me for having someone violate you, so you had someone violate me.
I didn't admit it, but I didn't deny it either. Just looked at her in silence.
Let me tell you, you deserved it. You had it coming. I've always hated your holier-than-thou act. So what if you're rich, pretty, and smart? You think you can just have everything? I'm telling you, my mom was with Dad first. Your mother was the other woman. Everything you ever enjoyed should have been mine. How dare you? How dare you? And then you caught Damien's attention, and now he's protecting you.
I stared at her coldly. Everything I enjoyed should have been yours? Serena, you probably don't know this, but our oh-so-successful father built this empire on my mother's family money. Without her, he was nothing. Everything I had in those first 12+ years came from my mother. Not a single cent of it had anything to do with him. Serena faltered, clearly clueless about the real origins of the family fortune. And another thing. Your mom knew Dad first? Did she? Did someone hold a gun to his head and force him to marry my mother? You were born 2 months after me, that's a fact. When one comes later, it's obvious who the problem is, don't you think? She wasn't capable of listening to reason. All she could do was claw at me, hit me, and spew the most vile, incoherent curses imaginable. I could see it clearly. What had been done to her had shattered her mentally. Time to twist the knife. Oh, by the way, let me share a little secret so you don't die confused. You know I'm under Damien's protection, so take a guess. When Damien found out you arranged for me to be assaulted, do you think he'd avenge me? Her body shuddered as if she might collapse. You've liked Damien for a long time, right? Do you know what he calls you behind your back? A bootlicker. Annoying as hell. He's crazy about me, yes, the very person you've always looked down on. That's karma for you. He had someone do this to you, all for me. Surprise! And it was done by the man you love. Oh, and one more thing. You never actually reported this, did you? So how did the news get out? How did everyone find out? If you didn't tell, then whoever did it must have spread the word. You ruined my reputation, so he ruined yours. Fair, isn't it? The difference is, you spread lies about me. What he spread about you is the truth. And I know exactly why you didn't report it. They took photos, didn't they? I've seen them. The words they carved on you were quite artistic. She completely broke. Clutching her head, she began shrieking uncontrollably. I turned around, walked out of the house, and headed straight for the airport. Damien had mentioned photos, but I'd never actually seen any. I just wanted to stab her where it hurt most. The man she adored had destroyed her for the woman she hated above all. I know that makes me vicious, but cruelty was forced upon me. She had never shown me an ounce of kindness, and I was incapable of repaying malice with grace. Not stabbing her to death was already the limit of my self-restraint. I felt exultant. Dragging my suitcase down the street, I couldn't hold back my laughter. Great roaring peals of it, utterly beyond my control. Passers-by stared as I walked past, blood still caked in my hair, cackling like a maniac. They must have thought I'd lost my mind, but after the laughter faded, a vast emptiness settled in. Because even with all of this, so what? So many things could never go back, like an answer sheet already filled in, with no room for corrections. Whatever score comes out, you just have to accept it. There is no turning back. So I walked this road of no return, becoming the very thing I loathed most, sacrificing everything for a hollow reckoning, for the cold satisfaction of an eye for an eye. Even knowing this, I would not turn back. This was the only thing left for me to take. Only this could grant me any peace on those countless nights I jolted awake from nightmares. Maybe I really had gone mad. Completely, utterly mad. This world is mad. Everyone in it is mad. I'm just mad enough to know it. If only there were another road I could walk. If only I could still find my way back. I returned to Damien's apartment. He was sitting at the table, tapping his index finger rhythmically against its surface.
Back?
Yeah.
Come here.
Obediently, I walked over. He was still useful to me. I couldn't cut him loose just yet. As I reached his side, he suddenly shot to his feet and slapped me across the face. Hard. He hadn't hit me in a long time. Caught completely off guard, I crashed to the floor. He hurled a piece of paper at my face. It was my application for the exchange program to South Korea. I hadn't had the chance to submit it to the academic office before my lung injury landed me in the hospital. Somehow, he dug it up. He straddled me and wrapped his hands around my throat.
You ungrateful little snake, I've been so damn good to you. And you want to leave South Korea? You think you can just walk away without my permission? Let me make this clear, you are never leaving. Not ever.
I had grown used to him yanking my hair, but my scalp was still raw with the wound Serena had given me with that vase. I'd never even treated it. It was healing on its own. Now, as he pulled, the wound tore open again, fresh blood seeping out, and the pain made tears stream down my face. Damien noticed the blood on his hand. He parted my hair to look, then instantly scrambled off me and gathered me into his arms.
Where did this injury come from? Did Serena do this?
One moment he was straddling me and tearing at my hair. The next he was cradling me like his most precious treasure. He was always like this, wildly contradictory, almost schizophrenic. He had to know the answer already. He knew Serena had come home. Who else would lay a hand on me like that? I didn't reply. Instead, I seized the moment of his softening, coiling my arms gently around his neck and begging in a soft, trembling voice. I had to make use of the splits in his mood. I don't want to leave either. I don't want to go anywhere, but you have to help me. Please. He looked down at me, wiping away my tears.
Tell me.
Seduce my stepmother. He stared at me in disbelief.
What kind of insane nonsense is that?
If you don't want me to leave, then this is what it takes. As long as those two are around, I will keep trying to run. They'll never let me be at peace. They'll never let me go. But if you can seduce her and get proof, I'll take that proof to my father and have those two thrown out for good. Then my life will be bearable. And if that happens, I'll stay. He hurled me off him onto the floor and stood up.
So you're pimping me out now, Elena? Do you have a heart at all? Do you?
He stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Fine. He wasn't wrong. I was treating him like a hired plaything. I'd already had a backup plan. If he refused, I'd save up some money and pay an actual male escort to do the job. Though at the moment, I was still broke. But sooner or later, I would see this through. That was fine. I could wait. Not long after, summer break arrived. I didn't go home. I just kept staying in Damien's apartment. As the new semester approached, I got a call from Harrison. He didn't say much, just told me to come home. For the sake of that 100,000, I went back. My timing, however, was less than ideal.
I've supported you and your brat for 20 years. 20 years. And this is how you repay me, cuckolding me behind my back.
I simply stood in the doorway and watched without a sound. I even pulled out my phone to record a nice long clip.
Please, stop. You can't question Serena's bloodline no matter what. She is your biological daughter.
My gaze dropped to Lydia's belly. She was pregnant. Lydia is pregnant. Does that have anything to do with you?
It's mine. Why not let the old hag give birth? If she does, that kid would be your little brother.
I put my phone away and didn't look again. Harrison was stomping viciously on Lydia's stomach. Blood began seeping between her legs, running all the way down to her ankles. Strangely, with all this commotion, why hadn't Serena rushed out to protect her mother? Mrs. Whitmore, where's Serena?
The young miss had a follow-up hospital appointment today. She won't be back for a while.
I nodded and immediately messaged Serena, urging her to come home. When she heard that her mother had been caught cheating, was pregnant, and had been beaten until she was on the verge of losing the baby, she panicked. She raced back just in time to see Lydia passed out on the floor, while Harrison, like a man possessed, kept beating her, grabbing a chair to slam onto her body. Serena, desperate and enraged, dashed into the kitchen and grabbed a chef's knife, charging straight at Harrison. Kill him! Kill him! Just kill him! I prayed silently. He easily caught Serena's arm, wrenched the knife from her grip, and shoved her to the floor right next to her mother. I recorded almost the entire thing. How fascinating. What a magnificent spectacle. In an instant, Harrison seemed to age a decade. He sat on the sofa in the dark, chain-smoking one cigarette after another.
Elena.
He'd called me by my full name my entire life. My name was Elena Harding from him, Monroe from my mother. I had once been proud of that name, now it only felt like a cruel joke.
Elena, you're all I have left now.
I gave a flat, non-committal nod and went upstairs to my room.
Elena, whatever you ask me to do, I'll do it. I can even do it better, more ruthless, more thorough than you wanted. Don't ever think about leaving me.
Then I casually blocked his number. I turned off my phone and slept soundly. No dreams. I slept straight through until morning, deeper and sweeter than I'd ever slept before. Every trace of Lydia and Serena had been scrubbed from the house. They got exactly what they deserved. After all this, Harrison was worn down in both body and spirit, aging overnight. He had originally planned to hand the company over to Serena because he hated my mother and didn't want it going to me. He was also grooming her for a strategic marriage alliance. But now, first of all, her value for such an alliance was gone. And second, whether she was even a Harding by blood was highly questionable. The only one left to inherit was me. So he decided to start grooming me early. I genuinely wanted to leave this place, but I wanted even more to reclaim the family legacy my mother had left behind. So I agreed. Just like that, studying in South Korea was put on hold. I filed for a leave of absence from school and entered the company, starting from the very bottom to learn the ropes. I entered the company under a false identity, using the alias Nora Monroe. I also stopped living in the family mansion and rented an apartment near the office, blending in like any ordinary working woman. Once inside the company, I quickly mastered the business and maneuvered my way from the customer service department into procurement. Because I always felt something invisible and intangible chasing me from behind, reminding me that my mother, who died with her eyes still open, was waiting for justice. I didn't believe for a second that Harrison ran a clean business. I was determined to send him to his ruin. I was working late and didn't get back to my place in the old neighborhood until 10:30. The hallway light was busted. I clicked on my phone's flashlight and carefully headed up. I was just a few steps from my door, already reaching for my keys, when a hoarse voice rasped out of the darkness above me.
Elena? No, Nora, is it? You think hiding here would stop me from finding you?
That voice was too familiar. I nearly tumbled down the stairs. Aiming my light upward, I saw Damien leaning against my door, staring down at me with a cold, vicious glare that promised he'd tear me apart. I froze in place, refusing to meet his eyes. I'm going home to rest. I have to get up early for work. Can you just move? He shifted slightly.
Come up and open the door. I'll come in. sit for a bit, have some tea?
I didn't want that, could not let him step through my door. Whatever we'd had ended the moment I blocked him. Just thinking about that period of my life made me sick to the point of wanting to die. I loathed him, absolutely loathed him. When I didn't move or answer, his patience started to fray. He began walking slowly down the stairs.
Elena, think about how good I've been to you. I could have given you so much money, you just never took it. I'd do anything for you. So why don't you have a heart? Why are you such an ungrateful backstabber?
I spun around and bolted down the stairs. He lunged after me. That old, suffocating feeling of being hunted and cornered came roaring back. I couldn't let him catch me. I ran until I was gasping. But I didn't dare stop. Didn't dare look back. I don't know if it was my imagination, but over and over I swore I felt his fingers just barely grazing my clothes. My flashlight beam bounced wildly as I ran. I lost sight of the steps, my ankle twisted, and I pitched forward, crashing onto the landing between the second and third floors. Damien had caught up. That was when I heard the building door open and close, and footsteps approaching. I screamed for help, shrieking it over and over. The footsteps quickened, and a voice called out. It was my direct supervisor, Julian Cross, the deputy manager of procurement. He rushed to my side in seconds. I grabbed his leg, begging him to save me. He helped me up, then turned his gaze on the menacing figure of Damien. Damien let out a cold laugh, looking from Julian to me and back. Julian's voice was deadly serious. He lifted the manila envelope in his hand. Damien lit a cigarette, walked down the stairs, and brushed past us. At the door, he glanced back. Only when I was certain he'd left the building did I finally let myself breathe. Julian helped me limp back to my apartment. I couldn't exactly be rude, so I invited him in for some tea. Thank you, Mr. Cross. If you hadn't happened to show up, Julian took a slow sip of tea and set the documents on the table. I forced a smile and answered as naturally as I could.
But from what I understand, the daughter of our company's chairman is named Elena. Is that correct?
Julian had seen through my identity. He knew my family's affairs in shocking detail. I couldn't fathom how he had such thorough intelligence. I had no choice but to confess. I was Elena Harrison Harding's daughter, and I'd been interning under a false name. But then he pressed further.
I noticed something off about your background a while ago. Very few people can transfer from customer service into procurement in just 5 months. Procurement is far more grueling than customer service. So what are you really after? And how did you manage the move?
I tried to dodge, but a lie is still a lie. Even though I thought I'd covered my tracks decently, he picked apart every hole in my story with ease. It felt like he was tightening a noose, backing me into a corner until I had no choice but to spill everything. If I did, I'd be finished at the company. What was I supposed to say? That I'd wormed my way into one of the few core departments because procurement makes it easy to spot corporate misconduct? That I was here to destroy Harrison? To gather evidence? Julian would have me fired the very next day. No, I still had room to maneuver. After all, Harrison had no other daughter but me. That thought emboldened me. I folded my arms and leaned back against the sofa. Fine, you're right. My intentions aren't pure. I got into procurement because I want to find proof of illegal business practices. But Mr. Cross, don't bother thinking you can tell my father or have HR fire me. The moment you kick me out, I'll reappear in senior leadership, and my father won't believe a word you say. So why not just pretend you know nothing? I'm not asking you to make things easier for me, just don't get in my way. And when I succeed, no matter what, I can at least guarantee I won't drag you down with me. Julian considered this for a moment, then nodded, understanding dawning.
That doesn't sound half bad.
I'm glad you see reason.
Of course I see reason, because we share the same goal.
Julian didn't ask why I wanted to ruin my own father, and I didn't ask Julian who he was working for as a corporate spy. An alliance doesn't require identical motives. Converging paths are nice, but diverging reasons on the same road work just as well. At any rate, after that night, Julian and I reached an understanding, and we both carried on as if nothing had happened. I saw him to the door. Before he left, he asked me who Damien was, and I said he was a barnacle I couldn't scrape off. Julian's face grew serious.
Nora, let me warn you, I've dealt with a lot of people over the years, and I'd say I'm a pretty good judge of character. This Damien is not someone to trifle with. You need to be careful. Don't push him too far, or he might do something drastic. If you're worried, I can walk you home every evening.
I thanked him for the advice, but I didn't take him up on it. He couldn't protect me forever. There would always be moments I was alone. If Damien really snapped, Julian might get dragged into it too. Sooner or later, my score with Damien would have to be settled, and some things I could only face by myself. 5 days later, I met him in my hallway again. More accurately, he caught me. As I was unlocking my door, he swooped down from the floor above, snatched the keys, unlocked the door himself, and pushed his way inside before I could. I didn't try to kick him out. I quietly shut the door, told him to sit, poured him a glass of water. I glanced at my phone, then put it away. He held the glass but didn't drink. He just stared at me, his eyes blazing.
Elena, I just can't figure it out. How many things have I done for you? Was any of it not good enough? Were you not satisfied? Why did you just vanish without a word? Am I nothing to you, just something to use and toss aside?
I nodded. His expression froze. To me, you are nothing but something to use and toss aside. He lunged, grabbing me by the collar, his face just inches from mine. The handsome face was now twisted into something grotesque and vicious. I met his gaze steadily and spoke without flinching. I've told you a great deal about my life, but there's one thing I never told you. His grip slowly loosened. He stared at me, and I caught a flicker of desperate hope in his eyes. Maybe there was an answer he was praying to hear. But that had nothing to do with me. Do you know why Serena arranged for me to be assaulted in the first place? I watched the light in his eyes dim. He wasn't stupid. With those words, he understood. It was because of you, Damien. Because of you. When Serena had me pinned down and was beating me, you took one look at my face and asked how much I cost. She had me assaulted because she was obsessed with you. Serena and Lydia were the chief culprits who tormented me. Yes, but what role did you play? His lips moved, fumbling to form words.
Is that still not enough? I get that this might be a sore spot for you, but I don't care about what happened. I don't hold it against you that you were assaulted.
I stepped back, searching his face for any trace of self-awareness, but I found none. So I kept going. I hate him. I despise him. He must have loathed hearing those words. His eyes went bloodshot with rage. Suddenly, he lunged at me, slamming me against the wall. His voice climbed, louder and more frenzied with each word blasting against my eardrums. I screamed back just as loudly. Let me tell you something, Damien. You can swap out a million things in this world, but you can't swap out who you are as a person. The road you're on, you chose it yourself. You are the most vile, disgusting kind of person I have ever known. Even without what happened back then, I would never have fallen in love with you. Have you ever counted the people you've hurt? And you get hurt just once, and you can't take it? The hand around my throat tightened. I could barely breathe. He stared at me with those blood-red eyes, as if trying to bore straight into the darkest depths of my soul to see what I was truly thinking. And still, his accusations poured out.
These are all just excuses. Elena, excuses. How much have I done for you? I had a crew violate Serena, wreck her body, carve words into her skin, all for you, to vent your anger. I seduced Lydia, got her pregnant, all for you. After you moved in with me, I still heard whispers calling you the bad woman, saying I'd take any trash that came my way. I ran the guy's leg over and broke it. Chloe, the one who harassed you in the dining hall, you think I let her walk away after that? She never even got her diploma. Elena, everything was for you. Everything. I did it all for you. So how can you be so heartless? Even if you were made of stone, I should have warmed you through by now. Was I not enough? Or are you just insatiably greedy? Answer me.
I could barely choke out the words, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Don't act like you dirtied your hands for me. These things, before you even knew me, you did just as many, if not more. Didn't you? He opened his mouth to spit something else, but at that moment, the door burst open. The police took Damien away. A moment later, Julian arrived.
You don't have to go give a statement tonight. Just stay home and rest.
Thanks. I thanked him, but I had no energy left for hospitality. Julian, perceptive as ever, didn't linger. 1. I started an audio recording. 2. I messaged Julian to be ready to rescue me. Damien wasn't locked up for long, but after he was released, I never saw him. Julian told me he'd gone back to his home city. If that was the case, then it was a blessing for both of us. Free from his harassment and with Julian's cooperation, I could focus entirely on gathering evidence against Harrison. After nearly a year of investigating, I discovered that the Harding Group's operations were riddled with violations. The sauerkraut for their instant noodle line was fermented by workers stomping on it with their bare feet. One of their sausage brands routinely turned up for an object. They bought nearly rotten oranges to make orange juice, yet they marketed it as the freshest Australian imports. The reason was simple. Harrison had bribed the relevant officials. A high-temperature canning line had malfunctioned and killed a worker. The incident had been entirely suppressed. Even more damning were the financial crimes. Over $1 billion in tax evasion and hundreds of millions embezzled. I decided I had enough. Time to end this. Harrison, still oblivious to the danger, even arranged for me to meet a potential marriage partner for a strategic alliance. After Harrison's downfall, the company would likely fall to me and I would need allies. As for love, I'd long stopped hoping for that. But to my shock, when I walked into the private dining room, the person sitting there was Damien. I knew his family was wealthy and powerful, but I'd had no idea that the Ashfords were the very family Harrison wanted to ally with. Both families' elders were present. Damien played the perfect gentleman, and so did I.
The eldest Harding daughter has certainly come up in the world.
His relatives asked if we already knew each other. He denied it. He kept up this charade of suggestive, ambiguous jabs, all designed to rattle me and make me squirm. Sick of the hypocrisy, I excused myself to go freshen up, but he followed me out. He fixed me with a smirking glare.
Elena, you've climbed high and now you don't recognize people, do you? Let me tell you, this alliance will happen. You are marrying into the Ashford family. Just wait.
I blinked, thought for a moment. All right, Mr. Ashford, I'll wait. What I mean is, I agree to this engagement. Hatred still burned in his eyes. He grabbed me by the throat, that smirk still playing on his lips, his voice laced with menace.
Of course it'll happen, whether you agree or not, but I gave you a chance once, and you threw it away. Do you really think now you'll swan in as the grand Mrs. Ashford? If I don't make you suffer 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times over, I'll change my name. Wait and see, Elena. Wait for what's coming.
His threats didn't frighten me. Understood. I'll be waiting. He was about to say more when the elevator doors slid open and 2 women stepped out. I looked closely. Old acquaintances. Lydia, Snow, and Serena. They spotted me from a distance and marched straight toward us, grabbing at me, demanding to know which private room Harrison was in. Damien simply stood by, saying nothing. When they finally paused and noticed who was standing beside me, their expressions were absolutely priceless.
You shameless, scheming little wretch. You set him up to seduce me. You wanted us cast out and abandoned, didn't you?
I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing because Serena's expression was even more exquisite. What a spectacular farce. I doubled over, laughing until tears streamed down my face. It took me a long while to compose myself. Turning, I headed back toward the private room. Lydia and Serena rushed in after me. Lydia immediately threw herself at Harrison. Lydia rambled on. Somehow, they'd gotten wind of this engagement banquet and chose exactly this moment to come groveling for money. Harrison cared deeply about saving face and wouldn't air dirty laundry in front of guests. To shoo them away quickly, he'd likely pay them off. At the same time, they were trying to peddle Serena, the family's other daughter, to the Ashfords. If Serena could land a strategic marriage, she and her mother wouldn't have to suffer anymore. What a brilliant scheme. Too bad the Ashford representative was Damien. Right there in front of the entire table, Damien ruthlessly tore open Serena's deepest wound.
This second Harding daughter seems decent enough. But if I recall correctly, Miss Serena was gang violated, wasn't she?
Serena went bone white. It was the past she least wanted to revisit. The men she had loved, the very man who had orchestrated it, sat before her, dredging it all up again. And she just learned he'd also had an illicit relationship with her mother. She started muttering something to herself incoherent. After so many blows, I suspected her mind was starting to fracture. With such a scandal exposed in public, Harrison was mortified. He barked at Lydia and Serena to leave. But Lydia wasn't about to give up. She latched onto the Ashfords, pouring out her grievances. Through it all, she clung to one single claim. Serena was Harrison's flesh and blood, and he could not abandon her. Unfortunately for her, Harrison had zero trust left. Right there, he demanded a paternity test. And at that question, Lydia hesitated. That one fleeting hesitation laid the truth bare. Serena was not Harrison's daughter. Harrison had murdered his first wife and destroyed his own daughter, all for a promiscuous woman who had cuckolded him countless times, and for a child who wasn't even his. I wonder how that felt. He had been deceived by Lydia for as many years as he had raised Serena. Serena herself couldn't process being branded a fatherless bastard and began tearing at her hair, unraveling completely. A perfectly refined engagement dinner was thoroughly wrecked. Deceived for 20 years, Harrison lost any last shred of reason or decorum. He started beating Lydia right there on the spot. She hadn't expected to endure this humiliation in public again, and in sheer desperation, she started spewing everything.
Go ahead. Beat me to death. I'll tell you this. Harrison, you think you can have your mistresses and your affairs, but I'm not allowed to have lovers too? I've slept with just as many men as you have women. Your stack of green hats is taller than you are. And you deserve every single one. You're no prize yourself. Do you know why, despite spreading your seed everywhere, you've only ever had 2 daughters your whole life? I'll tell you, I drugged you and destroyed your fertility a long time ago. You'll never have another child. I only wish I'd killed Elena sooner, so you'd have no choice but Serena.
Harrison, panting with rage, stared at the now hysterical Lydia with venomous hatred. Then he suddenly snatched the crab knife from the table and plunged it into Lydia's chest. Her madness ended in that instant. I never imagined Harrison would dare to kill someone in front of so many witnesses. Blood gushed out, spreading along the grout lines of the tile floor, forming a crimson grid, straight lines and right angles, a grotesque sort of beauty. The spreading pool, Serena shrieking, Lydia's eyes frozen wide in death, Harrison's dawning horror, the onlooker's shock, all of it wove together into a vivid, chaotic tableau. Time seemed to freeze, and I stood in the middle of it, thinking a single word. Retribution. If this weren't still the middle of everything, I would have pointed at Harrison and told him what a fine show this was. Dogs biting dogs, I loved it. It was hard to say who was truly insane. In that dazed moment, I felt that no one in the Harding family, myself included, was normal. The engagement banquet had to end. Damien and I, as the younger generation, weren't suited to stay. We left early. Before we departed, Harrison ordered us not to say a word, not to interfere. I don't know what deal Harrison struck with the Ashfords or what leverage the Ashfords might have over Harrison, but the incident was simply erased. As if it never happened. That night, I called Julian.
At the office, going through old files, looking for irregularities.
You really don't hide things from me.
Is there any need to?
I'll keep this short. I need you to retrieve something from the Bell Hotel.
What kind of something? Are you asking me as a personal favor?
This is something you'll find useful too. I planted a pinhole camera in that private room. I need you to recover it for me.
Can't you get it yourself?
It's not the same, Mr. Cross. The hotel won't just let me into an empty private room, but you're a cop. There was a pause on the other end, then he agreed and hung up. Julian's real identity hadn't been hard to guess. I'd observed him for a long time, trying to figure out which company he was spying for, but I'd never uncovered any illicit dealings. He could see through the holes in my stories with ease, and he'd once said he had dealt with countless people. All these were tells. His true profession was glaringly obvious, which suited me perfectly. Serena, not being a Harding by blood, was something Harrison initially wanted to toss out to fend for herself. But she'd witnessed the murder, and he was terrified she'd start babbling in her unstable state, so he brought her home and locked her in her room. I went back one lunch break to check on her. I don't know if she was faking madness to save her skin, or if it was real. When I saw her, she was shoving an entire slice of cake into her mouth, only to vomit it right up. The room reeked of bile, just like the person she was nauseating. I felt no pity. As her former victim, even a swift death wouldn't have satisfied me, let alone seeing her linger like this. She'd landed here by the law of cause and effect. She deserved every bit of it. Half a month later, my engagement banquet with Damien took place as scheduled. I really did agree to it, but not of course, because I still harbored any feelings for Damien. I'd never had such feelings for him, not ever. I'd said it a long time ago. His soul had rotted clean through. He was beneath me. Damien, our parents, and I all stood on the stage. Harrison was putting on a dignified front, spouting hollow pleasantries. I glanced at the clock on the wall and calculated the timing. It was just about right. Suddenly, the giant screen on the stage flickered and changed, seizing everyone's attention. We on the stage turned to look as well. One glance, and Harrison's face drained to ash. The Ashfords stared in utter disbelief. The person who had switched the feed backstage was Julian. We had arranged it long ago. Flashing his police badge, he'd taken control of the console with ease. On the screen, Lydia confessed to her affairs, and it was exposed that Serena wasn't a Harding. Then Harrison, in a murderous rage, stabbed Lydia to death. The crowd erupted. Harrison collapsed to his knees. "Don't leave just yet." He looked back at me, waiting. "There's a part that's yours, too." The screen went black. What followed wasn't video, but audio. The conversation I'd had with Damien that day, carefully edited, I cut out the parts unfavorable to me. What remained made it crystal clear. Damien, scion of a wealthy and powerful family, had engaged in rampant bullying on campus, maliciously disabled someone, sabotaged a student's graduation, orchestrated the gang violation of a girl, seduced a married woman, a litany of crimes too numerous to count. The look Damien gave me was beyond words.
Why?
No reason, you simply got what you deserved. The police were flooding into the venue. Before they reached the stage, he asked me one last question.
I loved you so much.
Unfortunately, not every love earns the same in return. And not everyone is worthy of being loved. You took the wrong road, Damien. You don't deserve to be loved. Harrison and Damien were led away in full view of everyone. Ashford elders rushed after Damien, leaving me standing alone on the stage. I was happy. In that moment, I was truly happy. I just don't know why tears still slipped uncontrollably from the corners of my eyes. No matter how much I had done, the things that were lost could never, ever come back. There was far more evidence I hadn't released at the engagement banquet. The cases against Harrison and Damien moved quickly because the proof was overwhelming. Harrison, especially his activities, had grown so brazen that the police were already onto him. That was precisely why Julian had been working undercover at the company. Besides murder, Harrison was also convicted of bribery, corporate malfeasance, tax evasion, and running illicit adult services. The combined charges earned him an immediate death sentence. Damien's crimes were lesser in comparison, but he was still convicted of aggravated assault and sentenced to 10 years in prison. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter, the Harding and Ashford families collapsed overnight. I inherited Harrison's shares and retained dividend rights, but handed the decision-making power over to a few board members who had been close to my mother. I rebranded Harding Group as Monroe Industries. I also went and legally changed my name from Elena to Nora Monroe. I had genuinely grown to love that alias. As for Serena, I paid to have her committed to a psychiatric facility. That was my final act of mercy. Everyone gossiped about how tragic the Harding daughter was, how her father and fiancé both turned out to be criminals overnight, and how she was now stuck caring for a mentally unstable sister who wasn't even related by blood. But those who didn't know the truth had no idea what real tragedy looked like. Regardless, it was all over now. The dust had settled. I had to move forward. After settling the estate, I returned to university to resume my studies and successfully won the government-funded exchange spot for the following academic year. Then, under the name of Monroe Industries, I established a foundation offering free legal aid and support for victims of school bullying. Having been drenched by the rain, I wanted to hold out an umbrella. Even if it could save just one person, it would have meaning. I didn't want anyone else to endure the same tragedy. 2 days before I was set to leave for South Korea, Julian called. I'd refused. I answered the phone.
Nora, Damien's been doing terribly in prison. He's constantly brawling, provoking fights, refusing to follow orders. He's even engaged in self-destructive behavior.
No one knows where he got hold of a dangerous sharp object. If this continues, I'm afraid he won't survive his sentence. He says he needs to see you. If you come, he'll stop. Will you go? I wanted to refuse, but I realized I needed to go and truly put an end to everything. So I agreed. The next day, I went to visit Damien. He wore a prison jumpsuit, his head shaved close. He had wasted away, dark circles so heavy they made him look like a specter. His features seemed sharper from the weight loss, but his entire presence was darker, more decayed. We picked up the phones and looked at each other through the glass, a long silence stretching between us. So close, yet so far.
Elena.
Elena was gone. I was Nora now.
You know, I have so many questions for you. After all this thinking, I only have one question. Please, I'm begging you, answer me honestly. Did you ever love me?
I was silent.
Answer me, Elena!
His agitation mounted. He tried to lunge toward the glass, but was forced back into his seat by the guards. I never loved you. Not once. I hung up the phone, turned, and walked away. Outside, the sun was dazzling. The road ahead was bright, and everything was at peace. When she looked up, I saw eyes full of despair and defiance. Such a contradiction. So I told them to stop. Then I saw Elena.
Her body was just as flawless as her face. If I hadn't reacted, I wouldn't have been a man. She said she didn't want my money. Even though I thought she was dirty, I went through with it. But it's strange looking back now, the memory of that night feels hazy. I think it's because that wasn't the real her at all. The one thing I'm sure of is that night, and for a long time afterward, I tormented her in every way I could think of. Yet no matter how I treated her, she always met me with that same syrupy, seductive smile, cheap, wanton, but utterly addictive. Back then, she reminded me of an overripe peach, gorgeous and tempting on the surface, but rotten to the core inside, barely holding its shape. The slightest poke would release a gush of sweet, decayed juice, sticky and revolting, yet still cloyingly, headily sweet. Maybe I should have realized much sooner that it was a mask. The clearest sign? I gave her money, and she never took it. She said she wasn't in it for cash, but because Serena was obsessed with me. I found Serena pretty annoying. She was too much like me, the same kind of scum, and one scumbag never wants another. She took bootlicking to an art form. But having seen her other face with other people, I found her even less appealing. Besides, she was mediocre looking. At the time, I didn't care why Elena had gotten close to me. I wanted entertainment, and she wanted protection. A fair trade. I didn't love her. It was a transaction. No strings attached, was cleaner. Emotional entanglements never ended well. But before long, I realized I'd fallen. It started when she took that blade from me, a blade that nearly killed her, collapsing her lung. Watching her lie on that stretcher, pale and bleeding out, something twisted inside me. It felt like that knife had stabbed me instead. My heart ached with the same raw, wrenching pain. I thought she must love me. If she didn't, why would she do that? Why would she risk her life for me? What does love even feel like? I honestly don't know. As far back as I can remember, only nannies ever took care of me. Can anyone feel love from a nanny, especially one who gets replaced every few months? My family's business was sprawling, and so were their social obligations. I could count on one hand the days I saw my parents in elementary school. I'd sit in the back of a chauffeured luxury car and envy the kids whose parents walked them home. I know that sounds ridiculous, but the things you can't have are always the ones that shine brightest. Those kids, if they worked hard and saved up, might one day afford a luxury car. But me, no matter how hard I tried, I could never, ever get my parents to walk me home from school. I did so many things to grab their attention. When I was 10, I threw a massive stack of cash at my nanny and told her to call my parents and tell them I was burning up with fever and dying. Their answer? Call the private doctor. We're at grandfather's birthday banquet in S City. There's no way we can make it back today. What does it feel like to be protected, to be held preciously in someone's heart? I have no idea. Later in high school, I fell for a girl. She wasn't stunningly beautiful, but she was delicate and fair-skinned with a dusting of freckles. One day when my stomach was acting up at school, she gave me her carton of milk and said, "Let me tell the teacher so you can go home and rest. You can't go on like this." And I was helpless. I fell hard. We ended up together. Looking back, what an idiot I was. Just a few words with an agenda. I spent every penny I could access on a 6-figure jewelry set. I made a joke about being broke. She dumped me immediately. I was so lost. Was there nothing about me worth loving? Was I that unworthy? Was money really that important? Sure, for someone without it, maybe it was, but important enough to fake warmth and affection for someone you don't even like? I just wanted to be loved, and the result was just tragic. So, in front of the whole class, I gave that jewelry set to her chubby, plain desk mate. Her face went green after school. She messaged me saying she'd only been upset, and could we get back together? I told Elena that story in the hospital, but I left out what happened next. So as long as I have money and give it to you, you'll do anything, right? She played innocent at first and said no, but eventually admitted it. So I found 5 thugs I knew from outside school. I knew they were only hanging around me for my cash. If I ever went broke, they'd be the first to trample me into the dirt. But in this world, money talks, cash is king. I had those 5 take turns with her. Then I threw a bank card at her feet with $400,000 in it. As long as someone gives you money, you'll do anything, right? She cried horribly, but I didn't feel a shred of pity. She had brought it on herself. Her only mistake was lying to me. I still don't know why I told Elena so much that day. The high school girl had fussed over me and said she loved me, but it was all fake. Elena never asked about my life, never once said she loved me, yet she almost died for me. I decided actions mattered more than words. I believed Elena loved me. Then Elena told me her own story. As she talked, aside from the occasional moments when she remembered to force a smile, her face was blank. Nothing like the fawning, sugary mask she usually wore. But I'd already realized long before that she didn't really like smiling. She was bundled up, silently making pasta, her eyes holding no trace of joy, just weariness with life and grim perseverance. When Chloe came to harass her, screeching those hideous insults while everyone pointed and whispered. Elena just stood behind that glass partition, looking at Chloe, looking at all of them, looking at the whole world with that calm, cold gaze. She felt like a stranger in that moment. I had this sudden, jarring sense while the entire world was staring at her through the glass. She was also staring right back, silently scrutinizing and judging the world. Her essence wasn't that overripe, rotting peach. She was far more composed, far more still than I'd ever known or imagined. She never admitted to loving me, but I thought that's fine. I know her now. It's in her nature to be this guarded and stubborn. She could keep denying it forever, and I'd be okay with that. As long as I knew she loved me, I said I'd repay the debt of her saving my life. The truth was, I just wanted to do things for her. So I had a group of men violate Serena, just like I did back in high school, but this time was worse. I gave explicit orders, wreck her body, carve words into her skin, take photos and circulate them. I wanted her reputation completely destroyed. Nothing less would compensate Elena. I'd do anything she wanted. I helped her get revenge on Serena, made sure the story spread far and wide, all the way to her hometown. I secretly dealt with so many people who slandered her. She became the woman I wanted to protect, and I couldn't allow anyone to speak a bad word about her. The most insane thing I ever did was sleep with her stepmother, a 44-year-old hag. I played with that old woman for about 2 months and even got her pregnant, then anonymously mailed the prenatal report straight to her house. I heard later that she lost the baby from the beating and was thrown out, but honestly, she can't blame me. She was no saint. The first time I saw her, she was at a club ordering 7 male escorts at once, draped all over them. An old, insatiable, dissolute creature who couldn't survive without a man. She took good care of herself, but I still felt disgusted. The thought of how many men she'd been with made my skin crawl. The moment I learned she was pregnant, I got out fast. Even though it disgusted me, I did it because Elena had said that if Lydia and Serena didn't leave the family, she would definitely go. I'd long since seen through this woman's true nature. She was the most ruthless, unfeeling person. Even if she loved me, she'd still abandon me for South Korea. I absolutely could not let that happen. I absolutely would not let her leave. So I'd do anything, even sleeping with a fossil, but I never imagined that after everything I'd done, Elena would become completely unreachable. She dumped me. The moment I realized it, I went berserk in that apartment, smashing everything I could. I had done everything for her. How could she leave me? I went through hell to track her down, cornering her at her old family house. She'd changed her name, taken a leave from school, and was working at her family's company. So with the mother-daughter pair gone, her life really had improved. And once it did, she threw me away. Why did everyone do this to me? I had to get an answer.
You are the most vile, disgusting person I have ever known.
If that were true, could she have shared my bed? Could she have taken a blade from me? I didn't believe it. I knew she was just stubborn. I thought it through for a long time and decided she simply wanted to escape her wretched past, and that meant cutting off everyone associated with it. So she'd steeled her heart against me. If I could reappear with a fresh, new identity, she'd accept me again. That was why I pushed for the Ashford-Harding alliance. That way, I'd be her powerful, high-status fiancé, not just some remnant of her shameful history. But I still hated her for walking out, and I couldn't stop myself from saying vicious things to her. The truth was, the moment she agreed to the engagement, I was overjoyed. I would never let her leave me. For that, I'd do anything. I just never expected that the engagement itself was part of her plan. She truly had never loved me. All she wanted was revenge. She only wanted to destroy me. She really hadn't been lying. I really was the most vile, disgusting person in her eyes.
You aren't worthy of being loved.
What did I do wrong? At which step did I go astray? Was there still a chance to make things right? No one could give me an answer. Even locked in prison, I still couldn't let go of Elena. I had to hold on no matter what. I couldn't believe that she truly didn't love me. I thought, at the very least, She must have loved me once. When she took that blade from me, she surely loved me then. I made all that trouble in prison just to see her one more time. I finally got my wish. Her whole presence was different now. Still calm, but that old glacial chill was gone. Even I could see it. She had truly shed some of her burdens. She was doing well. I'd meant to ask her so many things. Why wasn't I worthy? What exactly did I do wrong? Why had she chosen me to begin with? But in the end, I only asked the one question I needed answered most. Had she ever loved me, even for a single moment? I didn't want to die as a man who had never been loved in his entire life. Her heart truly was made of stone. She couldn't even spare me a lie. After she left, I stopped fighting, stopped hurting myself, stopped causing chaos. The guards probably thought I'd come around, reformed. Half a month later, during a prison cleanup detail, I took a bottle of bleach and a bottle of toilet cleaner into the bathroom and mixed them together. I knew exactly what was coming. As consciousness faded, I thought I saw Elena standing somewhere just out of reach. But she didn't embrace me. She turned and walked away, and no matter how I screamed, she never looked back. Elena, I don't wish you happiness at all. I hate everyone who deceived me and hurt me. I hope you find no happiness. I hope you never walk into the light. I hope you drown forever in darkness, spending the rest of your life tormented by the bitter memories of your past. I hope I always hold a place in your heart, even if it's not love, even if it's only disgust and loathing. That still means I have a place there. If ghosts are real, I hope I can still haunt you after death, haunt you every day and every hour, drag you down into the mire where only I exist. Don't find any happiness except the one I couldn't give you. Don't find the happiness I was never allowed to have, because I hate you. This life is already over, and there's no path back. But maybe in the next life, someone will love me. Maybe